Hello and welcome to First Issues Weekly, the compilation of the weekly comic review show, First Issues Now. Each day you can check out the newest First Issues released this week on First Issues Now, or weekly at the end of the week, in a batch just like this. I'm AJ Carey, the comic archivist, and these are the comics released for the week of July 30th, 2025. I think the new Sammy's Pick segment is actually a hit and a half. Ooh, I finally get to bring up that I did a Then and Now of Werewolf by Night, so I'm going to be extra dorky about this. Check that out on Then and Now of Comics podcast channel or my YouTube channel. This is Werewolf by Night, Blood Moon Rise number 1, with 2 stories. So firstly we have Nail in the Coffin, written by Michael Giacchino, art by David Messina, colors by Mattia Iacono, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. Jack Russell's been kidnapped by Count Dracula. It's going to be one of these books, huh? Yeah, kind of. See, Count Dracula is actually collecting a lot of horror-slanted characters from Marvel because there's something far worse coming. And when Dracula locks Jack away so that he can transform for the night, possibly into a werewolf by night, something strange happens. Jack doesn't go full feral. He becomes his more wolfman-looking self, but he's only half transformed. He's half Jack now, and has the brain power to control himself to break out, causing a bit of a stir and being attacked by another Lycan. I'm actually wondering if that's supposed to be Jake Gomez, because it's very much drawn to be his size and wolf shape. But Jack gets the upper hand, and he's about ready to flee the burning building when he sees a bit of the old Man-Thing. Hey, stop snickering. This is serious. Comics are serious. He sees Man-Thing chained to the wall, frees him, and they both escape, wondering what the future holds and what the new super big bad Drac was afraid of could be. And then there's a little backup story called A Howling Nightmare, with words and art by Jason Liu, with letters by VC's Josephine also. This is a quick little tale about how the werewolves by nights are stronger than the nightmares that, Nightmare can conjure for them. It's a quick, neat little story, and we get to see Jake, even if I wasn't exactly thrilled about his initial intro comic. Either way, it is a quick short, although I have no idea why these 3 are traveling through nowhere, so I can't really say anything else. Now then, the review-y bit. Like I said, I did a massive Then and Now on the Werewolf by Night title, so I thought I would actually have a lot more to say about this, but honestly, it is not a lore-based book. You can easily pick this up and have zero understanding of the character beforehand and still enjoy it. I mean, you may be like, hey, what's the squid-faced tentacle man looking thing? Oh, that's Man-Thing. Or, Count Dracula's a Marvel character, what? Yes, that is also a major thing. Those are some things that you may not know going in and then just be, that's neat. But nothing that will break the story. It is an uncomplicated king, as the kids would say. I will say it is weird with the, oh my god, I'm only kind of werewolf looking now, but I still have all my cognitive functions. For Jack, only because it feels like after the last 50-ish years, him being wholly animal-brained has always fluctuated, so it's a little bit weird having that be, I mean, granted, it is like a 4-page spot, so it's not huge, but it's also shockingly well written, so I'm only really nitpicking on this because it's been about a half hour since I read it, and I felt like I needed to say something. So that means that this is really, really good. It really is a great start, if there was another one. There isn't. The art is top-notch, and may I say, no matter what the script said, Count Dracula looking that sassy after throwing Jack against a wall is hilariously a top-tier moment, even if it's one small panel. But besides the oozing sass sections, there is a bit of indie feel to the art, especially for the transforming scene, and just looking at Man-Thing, whose delicious, delicious detail work can only ever come off indie style, at least to me, when they put detail into him. Oddly, this is a book I actually also think would look brilliant in news pulp, and not the modern comic glossy pages. Either way, my verdict on this is actually more pleasant than I thought it would be. The verdict is, buy it. Buy it means that you should have this on your shelf with your favorite variant cover. And I will say it is pullable, however, it is a one-shot, at least from what I can see. There is a Werewolf by Night Red Band book currently going, which is where I assume the second story involves, especially since I think that's the creative team on it. But I have not read it, so I cannot say yay or nay to it. So check that out too, just to see if you enjoy it. What in the thing is going on that cover? I can't tell if I'm turned off or intrigued, but hey, we'll find out as we check out I Tyrant #1, written by E. Zahn, art by Godfar, and letters by Amir Zahn. Before I say what I'm going to say, I'm going to read you verbatim the solicit copy that's up on League of Comic Geeks. 300 and Birdman's magical realism clash when Zahak, a legend with a stark depiction of tyrants, proposes that Hafez toss out his unpromising myth's conclusion. Hafez must retell it with a Kirby exodus for Zahak to give his tale a Miller reboot in the comics industry. Creation myths need a devil. Did any of that make sense to anyone? I think staring long enough and knowing what the words mean, you could try to suss out what it's supposed to be, but I'll be honest, I just read the damn thing and I feel like I'm not going to be positive as I want to be. First off, I want to say that I'm not going to bring up some of the weird dialogue and phrasing choices because as bad as it may sound, it may be a translation thing. Now, does that mean that it should have been handled by, say, an editor to make it sound better? Yeah, but weird quirks in the dialogue is something I can easily get past because I love the premise of this book. Okay, I want to stress, I love the premise of this book, even if I really think the execution is not good. See, essentially the premise of the book, more or less, is that Hafez is crafting a play with the people in his life not being very supportive after so long. Anyone in the creative field can understand that. Zahak is the main villain of said play, and he, be it a real being or the character created, keeps trying to force Hafez to make the play go his way. And it's not a bad premise. I've had characters fight me while I was writing because the creator essentially is acting nigh unto a god when doing it right. You want two characters to hook up, but they won't. Clearly, this one wants to go over here, and this one's kind of asexual. But that is where you can get a neat story out of it. And the art in a vacuum is great for the dark psychological and even body horror parts of this book, but it does feel a little iffy when there's any attempt for real sequential art and the mundane talking parts. Now it's time for me to go Roadhouse and not be nice. While the premise, like I said, is a great one that I think every creative mind has thought about doing or has made their own version of this sort of thing, the execution is sloppy. It feels as coherent as the solicit in how it's all structured. There's actually a couple times you can see in this where it's trying to be brilliant, and it kind of pulls it off, mostly at the end where Hafez is having a full breakdown to his therapist, but because of the random bouncing around in time, linearity, realities, and the non sequiturs thrown in, I think it breaks what could have worked really well to convey that story. The art, again, while I think it's great for the mental what the fuckery that's going on, also does have a massively disjointed feel in how it's spread, in both how the spreads lay out and just what they're trying to convey, that it all comes off almost like a first draft or why you need editors. There is something here in this book, but I don't think this is the best way forward for it, and it's already got 4 issues ordered up, so not like I'm gonna change anything. Actually, this reminds me of early mid-2000s indie comics. It was right at the start of the digital comic thing, where you would get a decent artist, you would get a friend group of a decent artist and an okay writer, where you'd get the decent artist kind of trying to be as ooh and ah abstract as possible, and the high schooler's first okay story that was totally gonna break the system, he thinks it's perfect, so they throw the two together since, yo, this would be dope and you're my friend, so I don't have to pay you. And that gives you poor layouts because no one knows what they're doing, terrible reading flow, weak storytelling in general, and just an overall not a very good time. Or rather, maybe not a good time, but definitely not as emotionally impactful as it's trying to be. I hate giving this verdict, but as of right now, ignore it. Ignore it means that it isn't worth the time or energy to pick up. Now, I usually say maybe it's in the eye of the reader and you should get it yourself. At the very least, it's readable. And if you decide to do that, blessed be the way, brother and sisters. I'm not going to be able to be the one to say, hey, check it out, you might like it. I think you might enjoy looking at the art, but otherwise, there's a billion different ways to go at this. I will say that I do think Godfar could do some really good variant covers on other books, though. Now, I'll have to be honest here, I haven't really been checking out the Marvel Star Wars stuff outside of some stuff that I covered, like for binging on comics Darth Vader, and the first issues when they officially launched back in whenever. So this should be a fun experience as we check out Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, Tides of Terror #1. Written by George Mann, pencils by Luis Moracho, inks by LeBeau Underwood, colors by Michael Atea, and lettered by Comic Crafts Tyler Smith and Jimmy Betancourt. It begins with, oh, sweet Christmas, yes! Kid Fisto and Mace Windu fighting a giant monster. Awesome! However, it's Master Fisto's Padawan, Nadar, that kills it. Neither Jedi Master was trying to kill it, because it was just a scared and hungry beast. However, Fisto does also agree that Nadar did very well doing so. They then get a mission from Grandmaster Yoda to go on a diplomatic mission to an underwater station. Nadar is all boring, or however you'd say that in Calamari, but Mace and Kid are all, oh, don't worry, you'll get plenty of excitement with diplomacy. Spoilers, Jedi diplomacy is just like the Vulcan hello, honestly. There's a lot of screaming and crying. Anyways, TLDR, we're set up for the remainder of the 4-part story as we get a tour of the station, a brief discussion about the people on board, and of course some local wildlife. But then, one of the support struts, holding it up, explodes. And what's worse, the local fish are giant and ravenous. Oh no! This book was surprisingly fun. Maybe it's because of the comic I read right before this that makes this a breath of fresh air, or the fact that the majority of the books that I've been covering this entire month have been amazing, but very teen and adult demographic, while this feels a lot more all ages, or at the very least it's a simpler and straightforward story done in a clean, simple art direction that makes it a fast but fun read. Or it could also be the 35 years of Star Wars nerddom. Yes, I was born into the dark. You merely adopted it. But this is what I've always liked about Star Wars as an IP. While I truly love specific events, and I will always stand the Sword of the Jedi, what makes me like Star Wars is that there are a billion ways to do pretty much a D&D adventure angle kind of story. You know, the episodic idea of, hey, let's just tell an uncomplicated, fun story about characters we like. There doesn't need to be a Skywalker around. It doesn't have to be directly dealing with an end of the universe scenario. Just a good, solid story with a bit of heart, some mild messaging, and of course, the two coolest Jedis of the era. Now all we need is Plo Koon here, and I'll be a happy boy. Well, no, actually, another Darth Talon book would make me a very happy boy. Anyways, the verdict is simple. Buy it. Buy it means this should definitely be put onto a pull list, be it digitally or physically. But physically, you should definitely get a couple different copies just because there's not a lot of variety covers, but hey, the ones that are there are pretty nifty. Speaking of, I do think there is a Dark Horse Star Wars comic out this week, so... Oh, shoot, this is the finale? Spoilers, I guess. And... oops, I haven't read any of the High Republic. I'm a Low Republic kind of guy. Oh well, here's Star Wars The High Republic, the finale, #1. Written by Kevin Scott, art by Marika Cresta, colors by Jim Campbell, and letters by VC's Ariana Marr. Before we get into anything, remember, the High Republic is basically the Republic era right before the fall of the Jedi Order and everything that came before that. And the rise of the Empire then came after that. Look, the premise is that we get to see how someone I'm assuming is very important to the High Republic comic series becomes a Jedi Master. Then, 4 months later, on the planet of Dalna, everyone who's been involved, and even some that have no part in the main book, are all happy and celebrating and essentially tying up loose ends. I at least know who Grandmaster Yoda is, so that's a plus. And then we get the big ending for readers that I think has a lot more heart with the lead duo staying together, even with a major shift to their life. Honestly, I feel kind of like a voyeur reading this. Last week, or a couple of days ago, but it was released last week, I covered the Space Ghost Annual #1, which acted as the finale to Dynamite's Space Ghost run, and it was a glorious battle against all of the Council of Doom, giving the big thesis of this series leading up to that point, introducing the hooks to Season 2. It was great. It was a finale that even could have just snipped off the hook at the end to work very well as an ender to the series. However, this is the other type of finale there is. This is a curtain call finale, not a final issue. This is the coda. Honestly, I'm not privy to any of the emotions that this feels like it should elicit. For instance, they say that Dalna has come a long way since the beginning, but all I'm seeing is the normalcy that could be truly spectacular if I had checked out the last 2 or 3 volumes and all the other titles in the High Republic series. Faces and long discussions are had to give these characters a fond farewell until the next adventure in the High Republic era. Now, I can tell that it's done well, and I think if I had read the story leading up to this, or even previous volumes, that this would be a must-buy. But I honestly have zero understanding, and that's why I think technically my verdict should be not applicable, but I can't do that. So my verdict is, retroactively read it. This is a unique one because I'd say that this issue shouldn't be read. What should be done is read the first issues of the High Republic series, and then see if it grips you to actually be able to reach this victory lap curtain call. If the writing is on par with this that it is over there, then this as a series should be worth checking out. I swear I was talked out of dropping every R I would have had in this script by my sister. Go and listen to Sammy's pick when that comes out on this channel to thank her when that's up. So let's go meet this over in the yard. That was terrible. Godzilla vs. America, Boston, #1. With 4 stories, so you know the drill by now. The creatives are said when we get over to them. So, first is first. The Great Gorilla Whale, written by Steve Orlando, illustrated by Matt Emmons, and letters by Brian Kolick. We start in 1888, Boston Harbor. A burned and grizzled old salty sea dog sits bathed in the firelight of a tavern. He tells how he got his scars, when the great gorilla whale came from the water and burned his ship to pieces. And then, with a scream, it attacks the mainland again. But hilariously, Boston's strong in this context is that Godzilla accidentally superheats some treacle, and then a church steeple gets shoved in his eye. Then he pisses off back to the ocean. That's fun. Then there's Godzilla vs. the Lobster That Attacked Boston, written, illustrated, and lettered by Jesse Lonergan. Okay, how do I describe this one? It is technically a wordless comic about how Boston creates a giant lobster, which granted I thought would be Ebera, but nope, Boston Harbor lobster right there. That starts destroying the city during the Boston Marathon, then Godzilla comes and saves the day after he gets annoyed at the ruckus. But here's the thing. It's wordless, but there is clearly cited footnotes on every page to show all the Bostonian landmarks and the cultural things that really make this kind of a hoot of a read. Then we also have Make Way for Mothra, written and illustrated by Hannah Cha, with letters by Brian Kolick. That was fucking adorable. Plot is, Mothra's egg washes up onto the shore of Boston, and Godzilla nuzzles it until it hatches, and then the larval form of Mothra and Godzilla enjoy some silly little destruction while she goes to Fenway Park to pupate into the moth form of Mothra. But it's all done in a very sweet and adorable art style that I frankly need to see more Mothra books looking like this. On a completely opposite route, we have The Green Line, written and illustrated by Hayden Sherman, colors by Patricio Del Pesce, and letters by, oh hey, Brian Kolick. So it's about the Green Line trolley system, whatever that is, as the driver uses it to lure Godzilla away from his wanton destruction towards a very specific goal that only he seems to know. The driver does his best, and we get Godzilla there to crack open the ground and save the most adorable Godzilla Jr. I have ever seen. Also, black hole simian aliens from Mechagodzilla. By the way, if we get 100 patrons on the Carry On Production Patreon, I will get that Godzilla Jr. face tattooed on me. I love it so much. But anyways, that's Godzilla vs. Boston. And what can I say? I like it. 4 very unique stories about Boston and Godzilla. I haven't looked it up yet, but I think there are some Bostonians on the creative team. Although the only thing I do know about Steve Orlando is that he went to Hamilton College. And I only know that because CNY is a very dull place that Godzilla will never attack. But frankly, these are all great, and I'm shocked at how great it was to read. All 4 of these are a testament to why I love anthology books, because every single story feels and looks and is presented in a different way to the benefit that it is a tour de force and absolutely amazing. So, obvious verdict aside, my verdict is collect it. Collect it means that it should be on your pull list digitally and or physically. You should have all the variant covers in hard copy, and frankly, it is a great reason to break into the Godzilla universe over at IDW. Now I'm just wondering if I'm going to feel the same way about Kansas City next time. Well, we're currently at a 50-50 in this series of one-shots that I've read over the last month, so let's see where we are after this. This is Bring on the Bad Guys, Loki #1. Written by Anthony Oliveira, art by Jethro Morales, colors by Yen Nitro, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. We begin with Loki being saved from the whole snake venom dripping into his eyes for eternity after he killed Baldur thing, which I'll be honest, I have no idea if that's something that actually happens in Thor, or if there's just an artistic license because it's part of the Loki mythology. Not the point. The point is, this is part of Bring on the Bad Guys, so Mephisto gives Loki the deal he's been giving every other bad guy. Kill a person with this knife, take their soul, get your freedom. Loki shrugs because, yeah, he can kill a kid. He does that for fun on Tuesdays. It's just immortal. But then when Loki goes to do so, he hears the poor boy, well, teen I think, well, maybe young adult in some sort of way, playing such a melody on his violin, and the song on his lips is just bewitching to Loki. Metaphorically, I mean. So, Loki rewrites the entirety of Paris to give him an opera house to be able to give the young artist the world so that he can finish the play that's in his head. That play? The King in Yellow. Naturally. Of course, at the end, Loki does follow the bargain, but Loki does still screw over Mephisto, because why wouldn't he? Both of these are contract negotiators to high hell. It's a good ending. Now, I know that quick little summary is, well, quick and little, but that's because this is actually a really rich issue that involves what a story is, and it is all about storytelling. The ending sentiment that it takes a soul to make a story live forever is just decadence in the best way. Yes, that is a reference that only maybe hardcore people who don't know The King in Yellow just by its Lovecraftian ties might actually get. Because while it rarely comes up in my comic book reviews, my first years of college were solely to be able to make a decadence movement nod, I swear. Granted, this also mainly focuses on the Mask short story in that, so you can easily see where Oliveira really hit something brilliant in making also partially a Faustian bargain. That it just, it gets me all sorts of happy, nerdy feels. But that's also where I think that hitting a home run in this really hurts it for one major reason. This is a tie-in to the Not Underworlds Unleashed story. See, I will still praise this book in the future about how a comic can, in no ungodly amount of pages, be able to hit literary levels and also show why comics, even mainstream commercial company ones, are more than just superheroes punching each other and having a quip here and there. However, it's also going to have that banner stuck on its head that it's part of a storyline. So even if this is brilliant, it will rise and fall with how the legacy of that event goes. I mean, I'm assured by a couple business friends that this is actually less an event and more meant to ape the 76 Bring on the Bad Guys graphic novel thing that Stan Lee did, and to get some bigger names back onto the comics. But if this was a graphic novel, potentially called Loki, the King in Yellow, it'd sadly have more merit when I praise it, because it's not tied in with the mainstream. It's a graphic novel, not a, funny little rag. And I kind of hate that feeling. No, that's not technically a shot at this book, or even at the event, just how we as a community and the world in general have this perception when it comes to comic book storytelling that is genuinely unfair. Anyways, let's cut through all that. My verdict for this is absolutely buy it. Buy it means that it's not only worth having a digital copy for reading, but you should also absolutely have it as a floppy, and any of the variants that look good to you too. Now, I would also usually say this also means it belongs being added to your pull list, but it's a one-shot. It does mean that 2 out of the 3 ain't bad that we've covered, so I would actually say it might be worth following the rest of these Bring On the Bad Guys. Oh, right. This was another event that was going around, isn't it? Seriously, how can I have so many Marvel books every week and not know what's going on in the main 616 universe? Well, I guess Fantastic Four did have Doom and Strange's Cloak of Levitation blasting them all over time, but not the point. This is Gods, One World Under Doom #1. Written by Ryan North, art by Francesco Mortarino, colors by Raul Angulo, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. I think it should be known that I did not read Jonathan Hickman's God comic in 2024, so let's hope it doesn't get massively confusing. So a woman named Mia is journaling when the best Rogue and Gambit son OC that I've seen in a long time bursts through the door. Actually, his name is Win, or Redwin, and he's the avatar of the Powers That Be, the new cosmic entity made last year about magic. He's bitching about something, but at least it gets us to know that Mia is his apprentice, and she also follows the natural order of things, the new cosmic entity made last year about science. Win is all about he totally needs her to help save the world, and he's not lying. So she joins him and they go to the Emperor of the World, Dr. Doom, for help. Doom pontificates about how Mia's not just a science gal, but she's got such raw magic power to her, not unlike Doom himself. The long story short is Win needs Doom's help to repair some spells around the sun because without them, demons will feast on it. Okay. They do so, with Doom actually being a really good teacher to Mia, and Win being left in the sun because he's a dick. And Doom is also a dick. But after Mia gets sent home, eventually Win comes back, with Mia having a new sense of value, and Win agrees that they're partners. Okay, I'm split on this book, dear listeners. On one hand, I really like the dichotomy of magic and science spoken about at length in this book. I absolutely howl that it's a talking book, even being considered a mainstream book since it is in the 616 or whatever Emperor Doom's world number is going to be. And honestly, this has the best moments from Doom I've read in a long time, with him teaching Mia. It is an exquisite peek behind the curtain as to whom Doom is, although if Kristoff and Valeria are any indications, he really not should be allowed alone with kids, even if Mia's in college. I'm at the age where college kids are still kids. But the split for me comes at being a very weird angle to look at the 616 through. Magic and tech have butted heads before. There's been a lot of discourse about magic versus science, aiding science or aiding magic. Honestly, this actually feels like a very indie comic that Hickman got greenlit because he's Jonathan Hickman in 2024 and had an idea, so clearly it needs to be a book. Now, maybe the Gods book is more like the Book of Magic from DC, where it explores the magical and scientific side of things, so it feels more involved with the 616. And if it does, then I'm completely wrong on that. However, I think, and this is slightly petty, I'm not engaging with Redwin there. Actually, that's probably what kept me from connecting with this book at all. I actually love the Doom and Mia stuff. I hate when Redwin's on the page. But it's just not the character type that I ever actively want. I have massive go-away heat for Win throughout the whole thing that I do not enjoy reading him. Now, I do get what North was going for here, and I do get that a lot of people might like him. But it's just not the character type that I ever want to actively read. Hell, I still hate Tony Stark after he took the armor back from Rhodey, because I hated him. Yes, that is a childhood trauma for me. Oh, and the art is really, really great, and I absolutely have zero notes on the visuals other than, love it, do more of that. The point is, what is my verdict on this? Well, I think my verdict is, read it. Read it means that at the very least, it is worth reading to decide for yourself. There is a lot of good in this book. There are, however, some parts that make it just not a must-own for me. However, I could also see this being a must-own for a lot of people, though. And not even just people who want One World Under Doom. I feel I'm legally obligated to say that I burnt out on Wolverine in the 90s. I have never had an affection for the character. I actively dislike the character when he's by himself, but I do acknowledge all of this, so it is not my fault if I complain. This is Savage Wolverine number 1, written by Tom Bloom, art by Devmila Premanik and Guillermo Sana, colors by Java Tartaglia, or Java Tartaglia, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. Okay. The plot of this 45-page comic is Wolverine is on the road after Krakoa ended. In the middle of nowhere, mid or southwest, USA, his bike gets damaged after a random AIM goon fight, so he pushes his bike to the town of Tropico. He stumbles upon a mutant who is starting to control the town and is also spreading anti-mutant hatred, because we're back to that status quo, so that has to be in there. However, he partners with the one person in town that's trying to break the story. Wolverine kills the guy, saves the day, and then drives off with the theme song to Renegade echoing in my head. Look, I make those cold opens right before I say the title, before I read the book, and I do mean it, that I am not a fan of Wolverine as a character, and this is the book that explains why. There are some great Wolverine stories that I've read. I do mean it. I even gave that Wolverines and Deadpool book a positive review, even if James Howlett was just kinda there. But this is such a nothing book. I read the Marvel Presents, I've read the Wolverine Solo series, and even checked out his book before his death, and then the aftermath of that. I have read a lot of these, and this is the blandest one ever. It does absolutely nothing. Literally, Wolverine shows up, stumbles into a plot which is a pretty weak plot, and slashes a bunch of people who get the most whatever kind of ending speech, leaves a 5-pack of beer for his new friend, and then vanishes. This is barely a 20-page filler issue of an ongoing, which, by the way, there is a Wolverine ongoing happening now. Okay, so the writing isn't that strong. Clearly that meant that this is supposed to be a vehicle for the art, right? These two damn artists on it, and you know what? It's fine. The art is fine. Just fine. The coloring is fine. The body horror of the evil mutant, the sheer amount of violence, it's all calling for over-the-top gratuity. Detailed line works, or even gross, detailed, sticky kind of art style. Hard hits. Instead, you've got this very simple art style that is made for slow scenes like stalking or talking, not slicing and or dicing. And I rarely, if ever, talk about this, but what the hell was up with the panel layouts? Now, I read this digitally, so it could be taken with a grain of salt, but it feels like Tom Bloom had no idea how a comic would work when he wrote the script, or whoever was designing the page layouts didn't know what they were doing, because you've got so many shots in this that feel like they were haphazardly placed. They did not have enough art for the page. And I can kind of see how someone who's maybe not really done a script before, for a comic specifically, would go, oh, this is a 4-panel page, 1 big, 3 smalls. And that's it. And so it's up to the artist, or the editor, or whoever is figuring this shit out, to go, okay, here's how we fill the page. I also have no proof of this, but the very first panel in this looks like it was actually supposed to be a lot bigger, mostly because it is tiny, even on a tablet screen, so on the page it looks like it's damn near impossible to read. But it looks like it's supposed to be, unless they're trying something special, like they're zooming in, so they're showing, the action noises in there, which again, possible. However, it still looks like it was shrunk from what it was supposed to be. Look, my verdict on this is ignore it. Wolverine fans have already gotten it, and I won't change their minds on that. If you want to read it, go for it. But only if it's on Marvel Unlimited, and only if you've already read every other Wolverine and X-Men with him in it, or when he was with the Avengers. And even when he was dead, those books aren't bad either. But honestly, it's not worth it, man. I've been saying they've been needing to do this for the last... Let's see, they bought it in 2009, so... Sweet Christmas, forget I said anything. I'm not old, I just need an oil change. Anyways, this is Marvel and Disney's What If? Goofy Became Spider-Man, number 1. Plot by Steve Bailing, script by Riccardo Secchi, art by Francesco Dippolito, colors by Lucio Ruvadati, and letters by Laura Tartaglia. So this isn't just Peter Parker, but with Goofy. Obviously. Goofy is actually really into entomology, and you can really tell that I had to struggle saying that with my allergies the way they are. With having collections of bugs around the house. It being the only class that he's passing in school, that sort of thing. But when he finds a spider in the attic, and then he takes it to go show his professor, since it wasn't in any of his books, it then gets zapped by the professor's strange genetics ray thing, and then bites Goofy, giving him the powers of a spider. To make some money, since his Aunt May is so broke, as she always is, he goes to a talent contest where he's very clearly going to win, but the Beagle Boys steal the money. Goofy, not realizing what they did, lets them run past, much to the chagrin of the security chasing him. Dejected, Goofy goes home, but when he gets home, though, there's cops outside his house. The Beagle Boys have broken into the home and taken Uncle Ben to escape. Now, truly the definition of miffed, Spider-Goofy swings off into the night, only to find Uncle Ben broken, parts scattered over the street. Oh right, Uncle Ben is a motorbike with a sidecar, not an actual person in this one. Goof stops the Beagle Boys, gives the money back, and a man in the crowd wants to buy Uncle Ben's parts because they're expensive junk, so the money issue is saved. Okay, listen. I've actually done the origin of Spider-Man over on the Then and Now of comics. Currently, the only version of that is up on my YouTube channel. It is available regardless. So I know Spider-Man's origin. I know the origin of every Spider person ever. And frankly, I love this. This is a top 5 Spider origin right here. Going in, I was wondering if this was going to be here's Peter Parker's origin, but with some goofy shtick in it. But I wasn't seeing the big picture here. This isn't a Marvel book. This is one of the Mickey Mouse and Friends comics. It is much more a Carl Banks comics than it is a Stan Lee comic, if that makes sense. If Spider-Man didn't exist and this comic came out, it would still be a great comic. It is an all-ages comic, sure, but all ages doesn't inherently mean bad, or even made solely for the enjoyment of the young tykes. This is an all-ages book in that it will be enjoyed by all ages. That is, unless you're a shitposting troll on Twitter who thinks all comics need to be from the 90s, but not the cool part of the 90s that was innovative and speaking to the audience, but the dumber stuff. See also wrestling fans in the ECW. Sorry, that was cynical. Not wrong, just cynical. So, the writing is gold, although not as gag-heavy as I thought it would be, but the art. This might actually be my favorite visuals to any Spidey webs in a long time. It's not the spaghetti webbing or even the classic net webbing. It's goopy but taut, if that makes sense. It is a simple and clean art style that is basically, let's do the classic Disney Comics art style with modern line work and conventions. It is also great. The verdict is pretty obvious. Buy it. Buy it means that it's absolutely worth having on your shelf. I'd say it's also worthy of being on your pull list, but it is a one-shot. Definitely do check out the other Marvel Disney what-ifs, like the one with Donald Duck as Wolverine. Yeah, those are also out, and will be out. Oh, and included in the buy it would be me saying there are no bad variant covers to this book, so I am absolutely up for getting all of them. I have the Scotty Young cover myself, but I'd also mark for Scotty Young no matter what, especially when it's an homage cover. Oh, thank God, some good old-fashioned Spider-Man story that JMS doesn't want his name removed from. Always a treat. Well, maybe. Let's find out. This is Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16, number 1. Written by J. Michael Straczynski, art by Phil Noto, and letters by VC's Ariana Maurer. Oh, this is going to be one of them funny rags, isn't it? Actually, it was really, really funny. Okay, the basic premise is that Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson, or Mary J. Parker, I don't know what universe this is, goes out to dinner at a very private restaurant. So private, invite only. Also showing up is Thor and She-Hulk on a date, Doc Ock on a date with a friend from high school, Kingpin and his wife, Loki, Absorbing Man and Titania, Eddie Brock as Venom. Now, what is great about this is that this is all actually a plot by the restaurant owner for insurance money. Because they made sure to send invites to everyone who, has a billion reasons to punch each other as soon as they see each other. But the sheer fun is everyone is trying their best not to. Everyone, though, except for Eddie, who is a dick and is quick to venom it up, and the fight ensues and destroys the place. And then another cathartic ending with MJ and Peter watching the sunset together as they kiss lovingly. Because no one will ever forgive or forget what stupidity Quesada mandated, even if Brand New Day wasn't that bad. Everything before and then your one moment in time bullshit. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not talking about that. I love this book, though. JMS knows the characters involved very well. Biblically, some would say. So you can see how well he manages to make the uncomfortable sense of tension as everyone tries to have a good night build. And honestly, the interactions where Peter literally sees one of his major villains like Doc Ock or Eddie and is like, you, me, outside, now, we have to talk, really pushes just to make this a fun romp. And of course, Phil Noto's art is just crisp and nice and beautiful to keep up the more iconic looks of everyone. And even though the majority of this book is just talking and dialogue-driven gags and interactions, it gives this life that a lesser artist or a simpler art wouldn't hit for. I mean, if this was drawn out to be simple or more comic booky or cartoony, I would still say that it'd be a great read, but because of Noto's style and talent, it has a life that makes it visually as amazing to see as much as it is to read. Yes, this is actually a quick one, but honestly, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes a book is absolutely worth buying because it's fun. It almost brings up a discussion point that I've made a couple times about how sometimes the best one-shots can just be like a good filler issue of an ongoing series. And this actually makes me wish there was a 616 Spider-Man ongoing that I could get behind. Okay, well, a Peter Parker-driven 616 book I can get behind. Either way, I've got to go catch up on Ultimate Spider-Man before the Endgame event. Oh, right, so yes, my verdict is read it. Read it means that at the very least it is absolutely worth reading digitally, although I would say it is also worth having a physical copy of, because I'm also a JMS collector, so take that with a grain of salt. But on a reader level, at the very least, give it a gander and get a few chuckles. Well, the bottom of the cover says We Are Yesterday Aftermath, which is honestly way too easy for me to make a joke about mainstream comics living in the past far longer than they should. Well, actually, I guess that's the joke. Moving on, here's Justice League Dark Tomorrow Special number 1. Written by Mark Guggenheim and Mark Waid. Art by Cian Tormey. Colored by Romulo Ferrado Jr. And letters by Dave Sharp. To quote the solicit, in the wake of the We Are Yesterday crossover event, a mysterious quantum quorum has emerged, stalked by a lethal enemy that takes no prisoners. The League deputizes a ragtag group of time-displaced heroes like Batman Beyond, Gold Beetle, and Huntress, the Helena Wayne version, to fill the void left behind by the Time Masters and save the quorum from the mysterious threat that's picking off time travelers one by one. These Legends of Tomorrow are the only ones standing in the way of this cascading chronal Armageddon, with the past, present, and future teetering on the brink in this oversized special leading into the next big DC All-In event. Did you get all that? Because, yeah, that is the general premise, but, leaves out everything. We start with Wave Rider, which is never actually a good sign for a DC event. And Gold Beetle, who I will say is the romantic love child of Ted Kord and Booster Gold. No, I'm not going to accept any other answer. Who's literally glitching out of existence. And there's a new hero whose identity would totally cause a paradox if it was revealed, so they must be called Legend. And he's got the Wave Rider time ship. Oh, and the official team going to save the world from the Great Darkness Omega Demon things are the three mentioned, plus Plastic Man, Marilyn Midnight, who I have no idea who the hell she is, but she looks dope as hell, Jonah Hex, Airwave, and Amazing Man. So they all go out and do some cool action bits, but uh-oh, there's a spatial firewall stopping them from going back to the 21st century at the end. Okay. This may sound like an old hat yelling at clouds, but could we not do this? Maybe it's because I didn't read We Are Yesterday, but this starts with Wave Rider. There's a mysterious person in armor calling himself Legend. A dude in a green flash suit doesn't know that his destiny awaits. It's like they're giving this ragtag new Legends of Tomorrow team, but they don't want to call it the Legend of Tomorrow because who'd buy that book? Armageddon 2001. And half the people on the cover aren't even in this book. And I swear to God, it feels like last year was when this was basically the plot to Justice League Incarnate. Yes, I know, technically they weren't about time, they were about the multiverse, but that was in 2021, so we're dealing with semi-hyper time now? Like, I want to like this book. And honestly, if I was a new reader with none of the baggage of any other DC event, or maybe even just pre-all-in, I think this would actually be really nice. I'd probably have a much lighter and nicer view of this. However, I'd also wager that Guggenheim wrote this while Wade probably did story or parts of the story because he's doing future stuff. Don't ask me why, I just have that niggle going in. But okay. Me being too saturated in the company's history aside, the issue is not bad. I admit I like the characters that they throw together for this, but I also really wish that this wasn't just a double-sized issue summarizing a lot of growth that I really do feel like an ongoing or even a maxi series could have made build to the upcoming event very well. I want to like Airwave, or care that he's apparently a Time Lord that can do wonders, but that's just like one scene that comes and goes. The narration doesn't hurt, the writing doesn't hurt, the dialogue doesn't hurt, but honestly, because this is only a setup, it could have been an email, honestly. The art is nice, though. It is a pretty book. I like the designs. I think the action's decent. It's all not bad. Even the writing isn't bad, though I did just go off about it. But that's because it's always, let's get a team together to travel the multiverse. Or the multiverse is coming here. Or something involving time in lieu of multiverse. Although they usually are kind of the same thing, even when we don't want it to be. I get the want for events. It brings people like me who really only focus on the whole of the DC universe when there's a mega event, back to reading certain things. But this is a team that needed the Outsiders treatment, or even the Justice League Incarnate treatment, in at least being a team so people care. Especially if you put in a mysterious, oh no, you don't know who I am, so call me Legend. Just make it Captain Atom, and I will actually retract this entire verdict. My verdict is ignore it. I hate to say that, too, because the last DC book I covered floored me, and that was just a one-shot tie-in to a Flash story that I had no idea was even going on. But the story here will be continued elsewhere as it builds to actually doing the Dark Tomorrow thing, especially since this is marked for the Aftermath, so maybe it's one of those, it feels better after you've seen We Are Young. Honestly, I think this should have been a somewhere in the DCU-style small event, where you're just tying in books that aren't selling well or that you want to push, which, you'd have all these ragtag, you could still have your ragtag group, and they're dealing with someone offing time travelers. But, again, this is just a one-shot to try and get people invested, so I think it's ignorable. Honestly, if you're interested in the storytelling that just ended or is about to start, it is readable. So there is worth reading it if you have some interest in it. I was really intrigued because of Batman Beyond. And now I'm really intrigued by Maryland Midnight. I wasn't exactly positive about the last DC book I covered, but this is Nightwing. He's my comfort character in this neck of the woods. So here's Nightwing, Annual Number 1, written by Dan Waters, art by Francesco Francavilla, letters by Wes Abbott. Commissioner Maggie Sawyer digs into the past crimes of the mysterious Olivia Pierce, and discovers far more than she bargained for when she uncovers the existence of a strange and terrible entity. What is the Zani? Where does it come from? And what are its true plans for Nightwing? That is a solicit copy, and I'm just going to say this right now ahead of everything else. Go and get this damn comic right now. Spoilers, Nightwing pulls the Sir not appearing in this film at all during this, but oh my god, this issue is amazing. The reason I read the solicit was because originally I actually went beat by beat and talked about everything, and this was actually a 15-minute script. However, honestly, it doesn't actually matter. It matters in the enjoyment, but it doesn't matter in discussing it. Especially when the plot is essentially discussing the discussion and backstory for the Cirque du Sin, and more importantly, that Olivia Pierce, whose definitely got something going on with a creepy pointed-nosed clown being kind of talking with her. But truly, there are actually 2 great comics wrapped up in this, and none of them are a mainstream superhero book. Firstly, I absolutely love the Maggie Sawyer side of this comic. It is a detective story, where Maggie is actually investigating to figure out what the hell's going on. It is great, and I really want Dan Waters to just get thrown onto like a Gotham Central style book. Hell, give him a Slam Bradley Limited. In the Absolute Universe even. So you can go and just get gold. But this is great regardless. And the art is just perfect to get my indie crime book hairs standing on end. The other end, the big end, the end that I think makes this a must-own book, is that this is a huge meta-commentary on comic books. No, it's not the Grant Morrison Final Crisis meta-narrative that barely masks his message of fuck the editors and just fapping on the power of stories that kind of hurts cohesive storytelling. It's literally, I may not be saying this right, because it's neither meta nor commentary. It is directly stating, using the seduction of the innocence period in comics time, that would eventually lead to the creation of the Comics Code Authority and screwing over comics for a few decades. I bring it up in a lot of the then and nows that I talk about. Anyways, it directly uses that to tell this story. The Zani is a character or creature about stories, about archetypes, where they use the Grey Ghost and Wonder Boy in lieu of Batman and Robin during that time. The discussions alone in this book are top-notch, and some of the best discourse in mainstream comics about its own history that isn't Superman cool? That's exceptionally funny. Because the last issue I covered from DC had me feeling a bit more, oh great, they're doing another time travel alt-universe event. What the hell? It was a breath of fresh air. So my verdict here is, collect it. Collect it means that you should have a digital copy of this to read, a physical copy to also read, and all the variant covers. And of course, that is also retroactive that you should totally be reading the current run of Nightwing, which is very much worth checking out. In fact, all of this volume is just worth checking out. Dick Grayson is the best Batfam member, and I won't even hear a discussion about it anytime, anyway. Go and get this now. Honestly, I have not read Titans in a while. I know, I should, especially after whoever was really opposed to the Titans being around got ousted. No names, just guesses. Titans Annual Number 1. Written and illustrated by Phil Jimenez, colors by Arif Prianto, and letters by Wes Abbott. I'm in a glass box of emotion, all because of Donna Troy. Curse be upon you, Phil Jimenez. Was that too over the top? Probably. Anyways, this fantastic annual for Titans is about Donna Troy, a character that honestly was a fantastic support character, but anytime any writer on any Titans book focused directly on her more than a couple issues, generally turned her into banging her mom's boyfriend and rewriting her backstory for the upteenth time. Honestly, if you really want to know more about Donna Troy, Linkara has a fantastic overview of the Teen Titans full history in his video series March of the Titans over at Atop the Fourth Wall. Now, long story short, Donna's not necessarily the weakest character. She has had some great moments overall in my personal time reading Titans, but she was probably the founding member of the OG Titans that actually got screwed over a lot more than anyone else throughout her time. And one of them will become a heroin addict. And this book covers all of that, actually. Not the heroin, but Donna Troy's history. Yes, if I gave a premise, it would just be me recounting how the sidekicks of heroes came together to form the original Teen Titans team, even though Donna Troy was technically just put on the team because editorial didn't know anything about Wonder Woman at the time. But I'm trying not to be a comic historian for a moment, I'm just trying to be a comic reviewer. Basically, this is a great history of both the Titans, which, by the way, is the best scene I've ever read involving the Kid Titans when they were starting out, as Donna shows up to Wayne Manor in full Wonder Girl outfit, and it's awe-inspiring to think that Diana just dropped her off at the front door in the middle of the night for Little League stuff. But more importantly, at least to me, this is a history of Donna Troy, in the best way I've ever seen it presented fully. Besides the OG Titans, her relationship with Speedy, the two major things that I found really invested in reading this was showing her and Diana's relationship. Because, yeah, Wonder Woman is back to being formed from clay and given life by, well, not to really muddy the point, love. Whereas Donna was born and grew up naturally, so there's an obvious parallel, and it works great in conveying who Donna is based on, how she was raised on Paradise Island. But then there's also the other shoe, her estranged father, who she finds out had died, and we get to see her emotions about that. Yes, I admit I may or may not have gotten misty-eyed in a couple spots because, damn it, Jimenez made this look great and feel weighty as absolute Get Out. Not just the best Titans single issues now, but it may actually be one of the best I think I've ever actually read. Truly. So, obviously, my verdict is collect it. Collect it means that you should have a digital copy of this to read, a physical copy to also read because it's very pretty, all the variant covers that look good to you, and of course, check out this current run of Titans. Honestly, they're back in a big way and I love it.
Hi y'all, I'm Sam Rossi, the casual comicist, or whatever age it has decided I am. Thank you again to my brother, the comic archivist, for allowing me this opportunity. We pick from the list of first issues for the week of July 30th, 2025. And I've picked Monster High Scare Week Chapter 1. Before we get into the meat of it, we want to acknowledge the artist of this wonderful book. On writing...
Jacques
I?
Jacques I. Or Aye.
Jacques... That's all that went through my head.
Jack Lapidus!
That's all that went through my head, and I was trying so hard. Color is Catherine Shudo. And on lettering, because we believe lettering is an art, Kilami.
How about Kilamel?
Kilamel, I like that. Will you fix that in post, please?
I honestly was thinking about just cutting off these two completely and just using my opener to cover all of that.
Alright, whatever.
No, I still like you being the casual comicist.
Okay, here's the plot. Frankie, the daughter of Frankenstein, is trying to figure out what she can invent to bring glory to the name of her father, Headmaster Frankenstein.
It's pronounced Frankenstein.
The other ghouls, as they are called, are going to protest Scare Week because of the major sponsor is a cosmetic group that tests products on animals. And animal cruelty is wrong.
By the way, did you read one of the signs that they were holding up for picketing? Stop animal hexploitation. Which, bravo, 10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah, I know notes. Long story short, they go on a treasure hunt for Frankie's invention. They find the jewels, become friends with the imp guardian, and head home.
Who looks phenomenal, by the way.
That was great.
I have no fucking understanding of the Monster High verse.
Nope.
But the sassy imp on the throne,
I loved her.
10 out of 10, no notes.
10 out of 10, I love her. I would like to see more of her, honestly. Without knowing the past books, it's still a good read. I did feel a little lost with some of the side stories, so there's that. But it did make me curious enough to maybe read the previous books.
Sort of like Gulia, or whoever was apparently killed Headmaster Frankenstein.
Yeah! Well,
Like,
being brainwashed, and you're sitting there going, huh, really?
I think that whole support group thing was actually really cool.
I thought so too. Except for the what's his name? The blue dude. So, I would probably end up reading the previous books. The artwork reminded me of the cartoons from when the kids were younger and into shows like this. The lettering was clear and crisp. I have no issue reading the talking or anything.
Right.
And I enjoy that in a comic book. You know, I don't like bringing up Lion OOP, but Lion OOP kind of, was bad lettering, but I understood everything but that word, and it only showed up one time. And
Right.
It was because it was the O and the question mark were too close together. So I go with read it. You might get hooked to read more or even check out the previous series. I'm probably going to check out at least one of the other series to see if I like it. I might go back to the very first series to see if they are congruent. Not congruent.
Continuous?
Thank you.
In canon with one another?
In canon is really what I was going with.
Well, I'm wondering if so, because You know what I mean? It does feel like there's a lot of back. And yes, unlike with Thundercats and Powerpuff Girls, I'm going to also read the comic that you read so we can discuss.
Thank you. I don't know.
I figured you would actually like this. This feels very high school drama-y.
It does, and I'm 38 years old. I'm going to be 38 years old. No, I'm going to be 39 this year.
You're going to be 30. I'm going to be 36 in like 2 months.
Anyways, so
3 months.
I'm,
What's 8 plus 11? No.
I'm over teenage drama when I have enough drama in my life with adults.
That's very fair.
So, yes, I'd probably read it just to, be entertained. But I also, 40 pages is a lot to keep me entertained in a comic book. The only, very few books should be that long in my world.
Fair. Monster High, final verdict.
Read it if you want an easy read, and you might get invested into the plot. I'm kind of invested. I would like to know a little bit more. I would like to know more about the protest. I think I want to know more about the protest than the invention.
Animal cruelty's bad, yo.
Animal cruelty.
Stop animal exploitation.
Stop animal exploitation. Alright.
You have no idea how to close these off, do you?
No, not yet.
Say thank you, people.
Thank you, everybody.
Are you ready for this jelly? I don't think you're ready for this jelly.
My body's so bootylicious down.
Listen to Blinking 15 Minutes now to hear me and Sam talk about Now That's What I Call Music, Part 1, and 2, and 3. We are going to do a lot of parts to it. It is too fun.
This is true. I do enjoy it. Hi, y'all. I'm Sam Rossi, the casual comicist. Comicist. That is such a fucked up word, bro.
It's not a real word.
Oh. Thank you for the Comic Archivist.
You're welcome.
Thank you to the Comic Archivist for allowing me this spot. List of first issues for the week of July 30th, 2025. It's my second pick of the week, and I picked Speed Racer #1. I remember watching the original cartoon back as a kid, and I called it before AJ had a chance to look at the list.
I don't know. You almost called Godzilla vs. Boston.
This is true. It was a toss-up, I'll be honest, but my love of Speed Racer, or the nostalgia of Speed Racer, won out over, Godzilla taking on Boston. Now on to the artist of this wonderful book. Writer Dave Proposa, artist David Tinto, colorist Rex Locus, that could work, and letterer, because we believe that letterers are artists, Buddy Bodine. Bodine?
Well, it's spelled Bodoin.
The plot. We open 10 years in the past to Rex Racer winning the Formula X series. Rex is telling his younger brother Speed about how you win in the Formula X league, since there really are no rules. Fast forward to the now, where Speed.
What about Speed?
Fast forward to the now, where Speed is getting ready to street race in the Mach 5, his brother's old car. I love the Mach 5, and I love its little gadgets.
It also looks really good in this
Oh,
comic.
dude, it's totally awesome in this comic. Fast forward to the end of the race, Speed and Pops have a fight. We meet Trixie and get introduced to the CAT racing team, or CAT. Rawr. They had tigers on the side of their cars.
That's because they're just big kitties.
Yeah, they're just a big bunch of them. That's the basics of this book.
But what about Pop's heart attack?
I didn't want to give any spoilers. Alright. I'll be honest. If I saw either of these covers, I would buy the books just based on the amazing artworks on those covers. Really.
No, it's true. It's great covers.
The art does have the same vibe as the cartoon, where, to me, it felt... Thinking back to the cartoon, we had Speed in the car, then we're talking to Pops, then we're in the car, but we're not doing it. We're back and forth between it, kind of like on a comic book.
Okay. I think that also helps that Speed Racer had, 3 frames per second in animation.
I know.
Haha.
The story has me hooked with the plot. So far, I want to know more. I already know who Racer X is, or should be. Let's rephrase that. Should be. Based on the cartoon. But that could change depending on the plot. But so far, they've kept major major key points of the original show.
Okay.
Okay? You know, if they keep the original backstories, Racer X should be
You can say it.
Rex. Though they are saying Rex died in a fiery crash.
He was
As previously done in the cartoon
I was
also.
to say, yeah, he's always dead. But I'll let you finish off yours and then we can have a little discussion-y bit.
Okay. This leads me to buy, collect it, whatever you do. The artwork is worth the price of the book alone. I like art. And that's the thing, is that I would, you know, I can I can give or take the freaking words.
I actually think you're kind of right here, but I also think that the words, it's a really good script to me.
It's a great script. I want to read more.
Something I always love about his adaptations, be it this or Captain Planet or, you know, Space Ghost, is he keeps the framework. I will be 99% sure that Rex is going to be Racer X.
Right, because that is what the lore.
Yeah. And one, I would like to state this. He made me like the fucking monkey again.
I love the monkey.
Here's the thing.
Kid, why do you have a pet monkey?
But in everything he freaking writes, guess what? He makes me like the monkey. I didn't like Glip in fucking Space Ghost. Okay? I didn't care about Mati's monkeys. Or monkey or whatever I can't remember the name of the monkey. Okay? The dude is 4 for 4 with monkeys, man.
Well, that's awesome.
It's not. I don't want to like the monkey. Stop being good. I'm kidding. But anyways, when it comes to the writing, I think, like I was saying, he usually keeps the framework and then changes it. Or it's almost like when Black Sails, the pirate show, was being made.
Okay.
That is essentially them taking Treasure Island and then running with it.
Right.
I cannot remember the name of the showrunner, but he pretty much goes, look, I read Treasure Island once. Whatever stuck with me, that was the important things to keep.
Yep.
And I think that's actually what, like, it feels reading Dave Pavose whenever he does these, where it's like, hey, what is it that sticks?
Right.
Racer X will be Rex.
Yep.
Again, it could
Trixie and Speed end up together.
Trixie and Speed are an item. The dad is always kind of a dick, but, I mean, he was less dickish in the cartoon for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but he was still kind of dickish.
He was cartoon dad in the 70s dickish.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a matter of, you know, if you know Speed Racer, you generally know what's happening.
Yes.
However, the secondary part of what I'd like to say is that knowing the destination, especially in comic books, doesn't matter.
Right.
What matters is the journey.
Right.
It's why I always hate when some writers will be like, oh, we need to have a twist. And it's like, no. If all the fans know this is where you're building to, and they're excited for it, do it. Speed being a cocky little boy, you know, who's like, you know, screw your rules, I'm gonna go, rebel without causing it.
Yeah.
It's amped up to be a modern reflection of what it was kind of in the 70s, you know?
Yes.
Where it was like, oh no, I must do this, father, ha ha. But it is a matter of, you know what's gonna happen, you want to see it happen. And there will be small twists, like, again, I will spoil it. The cat team, they come in and they beat the hell out of Pops.
Yep.
And he has a heart attack during it.
Yep.
So then, you know, the big thing is, no, we have to go fast. Because it's about family.
Yeah, I can see that.
It reminds me of at the end of Get Rich or Die Trying. Fuck the ambulance.
You know, that really did happen.
I know.
That's why they put it in there.
No, I get that. And also, fuck ambulance costs. But it's one of those things where I think it works really well. Not necessarily as a standalone, but
Right.
I do agree with you is that, to me, it definitely, at the very least, deserves to be on a pull list.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is, it is another Dave Pavose story, so it is really entertaining to read.
I have to be honest, I've already put in my order for the book.
That's cool. Which cover did you go for?
It's a random cover.
Oh, it's a random cover?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to be surprised. Kind of like when you go, you get the first issue, monthly sort of thing, where you get it and you're like, I don't know what I'm getting, but I want it.
And I will say on the art, I kind of get what you mean. It does take the original art style, but then
Modernizes it.
Bumps it up to an 11.
Yeah.
And I will say, I love 95% of it, but there is just, I think this is just by the sheer weight of we're making a comic about driving.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where there's a lot that's great, but at the same time, it's almost keyframes versus. I never got the feeling they were going fast in this.
No, not really. I'll be honest. The speed lines were not speedy enough.
I don't even think I don't know what it was like.
It didn't have enough blur.
I think that might be it. Is that it is crisp. The line work is crisp. I love it. It looks great.
And it looks like you took a picture and then put it into the book, not like it was happening.
Yeah, like
not like it was 3D just happened sort of thing where you can see,
And I think that that's a personal taste thing. I think for me, I would like slightly more almost. I want to say sketchy, but I don't think that's the right word I want to use.
No, it's not. But I know
like
what
looser
you mean.
lines when going fast or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that could be because it's based off of an anime, manga, whatever you want to call it, where I've seen a lot of different ways to denote speed in comics, so that I'm just being a backseat editor going, hey, why don't do this slightly more? It's sort of but yeah. Otherwise, I absolutely agree. It's a collector. It is.
It's a collector, and I cannot believe how much a comic book costs now.
Hey, that's why I keep buying you trades instead of single issues.
Oh, I understand, but I want this one.
So, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is get it, read it, enjoy it.
And you heard it first here. And by first, I mean, I think this comes out the day before the new comic book day, so.
Yeah, I get Tuesday.
So you heard it last year.
I'm Sam Rossi.
The Casual
Comicus.
With all of that, though, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I missed a comic worth talking about. Let me know on the YouTube video version of this, or on the podcast platform you're listening on, or on social media at The Comic Archivist on Facebook, AJC_does-it-all on Twitter, and even on Blue Sky at AJC does it all, without any underscore. I'm always open to being told how wrong I am about the current mainstream and indie books alike. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, and all the other stuff that I'm being told I need to say to keep this show going again. I think we're about ready to beat the last time record. More than anything, though, remember to stay golden, Inklings.